On the field. Off the field. Sports talk. Entertainment and more. This is Sauce on the Side.
Well, hello there, Dippers, and welcome back to episode 75 of the Sauce on the Side podcast. As always, Dippers, I'm your host, Ray, joined by the man, the producer, Mr. Leighton Pip Shaventone.
Happy holidays, Dippers.
And, Dippers, we have a very, very special surprise for you, our little Christmas present to you, bringing his basketball knowledge all the way from St. Louis. We have guest host, Mr. Fletcher Hoig.
You know, guys, I'm one of those guys. I don't look to the past. I always think my best years are ahead of me, but I'm going to do that just for fun here for a little bit. Let's think if, we look at the Patriots right now. They're lacking on offense. They're lacking on defense. We always know Bill Belichick is to move off a guy too early before too late. What if he had kept Jimmy Garoppolo and then came off of Tom Brady and Gronk this past offseason? And they had those picks. They could have built up that defensive line, that offensive line that had more toys on offense. I think we're looking at a whole different continuation of the New England Patriots. I think we look at them so much differently as a younger team, a more faster team, more athletic team, and we're really going to see a continuation of that dynasty, and it looks like that window's closing.
So you're saying Bill Belichick realistically could have won the division until he was 150?
As long as he doesn't get Alzheimer's or dementia or delirium or anything, yeah, he could have kept it going.
That would have been interesting to see. As always, Dippers, be sure to follow and listen, download, 5-star review, subscribe on Spotify and iTunes. Download, give us the works. You can say what you want in the little comment section, but 5 stars every time. Be sure to check us out on thefsgn.com, where you can find our podcast and other podcasts as well, and follow on Twitter and Instagram at The Saucy Pod. All right, guys, so making our top NFL headline for the second straight week. Guys, Nick Foles throws for 470 yards and 4 touchdowns. A Super Bowl-like performance for Nick Foles to beat the Houston Texans and are now 1 game out of the playoffs. Guys, this is one of the most bizarre things I think I've seen in the NFL in a long time, but why does Nick Foles look like the answer for this team?
Well, Rick, it's very simple. I don't know.
That's a good enough answer for me.
He was a failure everywhere else for the entire career.
Whoa. Chip Kelly, sponged out 17 touchdowns and 1 interception.
Okay, you're right. So Nick Foles is only good when he comes in to be the Philadelphia Eagles quarterback mid-season.
Yes.
He can't start season off with this shit. We saw that this year. But he comes in after 10 or so weeks, lights the world on fire.
Hey, and there's nothing wrong with doing that, man. I mean, Mario Rivera made a career out of it, throw him as a starter, different career. Just have him be a complete relief guy.
Yeah, we're getting to the question now. We look at top all-time backup quarterbacks. It's him and Nick Foles.
Yeah,
him and Jeff Garcia.
Yeah, him and Jeff Garcia, definitely 1 and 2, and they're both have donned the Eagles uniform.
I mean, I give the edge to Jeff Garcia because look at his wife. He's definitely winning the battle overall in life. But Nick Foles is hot right now, and the Eagles in a playoff game. If they play the Cowboys, I don't think I probably pick the Eagles.
Yeah, no, I'm a Bears fan, and I'm scared as hell for them to get that 6th seed. That scares me. Because, Nick Foles, he's shown it time and time again, he can get hot. Those players, he might not necessarily be that great of a quarterback, but he can get hot. And that's a rarity in sports where you see a guy who can get this hot, who, realistically, how good is he? Probably not that great. But, you look at what he's done. In his last 10 games, he's 8-2. In Carson Wentz's last 11 games, he's 5-6. So I don't know what it is. The discrepancy there is obvious, but it is what it is. That's what I'm going to put on Nick Foles there. Do you guys see the Eagles actually being able to make it into the playoffs?
I want to see him in but I don't think it would happen because if that to happen, they'll have to win, and if they have to win, I think Minnesota actually beats the Bears next week in Minnesota. Because the Vikings are playing for their lives, against the wall at home. The script says they win that game. So for that reason, I think the Eagles win the game, but they're still on the outside.
I still think the Cowboys are going to win the division. I think the Cowboys have a better defense.
Well, the Cowboys have the division locked up at this point.
Oh, you're just talking about making the playoffs
yes,
at
making
this
the
point.
Playoffs,
Yeah, I do think they will. I'll tell you what, with Carson Wentz and Nick Foles, Carson Wentz has found himself in a really weird environment where he he's come off the injury, and so they're looking at him to hold him back, but then they're also looking at him as the franchise quarterback. So they're expecting him to carry the team, but they're limiting him in his action, that they're actually, putting him in different situations to perform. And that's really created such a narrow interval that Carson Wentz has to walk, and it gives him a very small range of outcomes that he can have. When they have Nick Foles in there, they have a guy who's just a guy. He's not hurt. He's just a guy. They know what he can do. And so they kind of open the playbook up, open the formations up, and give him credit. He knows that system. He knows that playbook, and he's playing hot. But it's just like the range of outcomes that Wentz has compared to Nick Foles. Nick Foles just has a wider range of outcomes that include positive outcomes. Carson Wentz has to walk such a fine line to get to those positive outcomes.
No, I agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
And I feel like with a young quarterback, you have to.
It's even harder.
Yes, you have to be playing with a variety of outcomes. I mean, we look at Lamar Jackson there with the Ravens. If they tried to use him any other way, if they tried to make him walk that fine line like you're talking about, what would he be? I mean, we wouldn't be talking about the Baltimore Ravens being in the playoff hunt. I think that's a really good point, Fletch, because I mean, Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, like these guys that just basically get to go out there and free flow, and Josh Allen. Like, there's no pressure on these guys. And really, all these outcomes that can happen with all the positive outcomes that you talked about, I think that that's conducive to success for these young guys. And we've seen Jared Goff and Carson Wentz, now that it's kind of, the belt's getting narrowed on them, they have to walk that fine line. That's whenever they struggle. And I think that's a fine point. So, guys, do you think that the Eagles should make the push back to get Wentz if they do happen to go in the playoffs and Wentz is able to come back?
Do you think it should bring back Wentz next year? At the start of that the question?
No, there's playoffs.
There's playoffs. If they make the playoffs.
No. If they close in the playoffs.
Now, what if they go on to next season? Like, you're going into another season with turmoil. You have a backup quarterback who's outplayed the starting quarterback in every single facet over the last 2 seasons. And, I mean, what are they going to do?
No, it's going to be Carson Wentz, because they're the guy who's been number 2 overall pick on. And they're going to put him out there. He's going to have a short leash. Honestly, he might have a long leash, because he did this year. But next year they're going to go into saying, okay, Carson Wentz might not be the guy. And we'll go through it with that mindset. It's different than saying, okay, we got a franchise quarterback back. He's a man. Super Bowl last year, Nick Foles. Better this year.
Well, this year, the coming year, he'll also have a training camp and a preseason. And for a guy who's coming off an injury and is a young quarterback, he's really going to need that. All the extra reps with all the skill position players is going to be huge for that guy. So.
See, the thing that drives me nuts, though, about the quarterback position is that, like what you'd said, Leighton, like, they spent the number 2 overall pick on him, like, he's their guy. But you look at any other position in the NFL, like the Seahawks brought in Rashad Penny, first-round running back. The Chris Carsons had the hot hand, and they just decided to ride him. They were like, okay, we'll take this guy that we invested in the first round, we'll move him to backup, and Chris Carson's doing a fine job now, we'll just keep rolling him out there. And if you look at it as a corner, if a corner keeps getting dusted over and over and over, and he's your first-round pick, you're not going to blink an eye if you have a veteran on the bench who comes out and just locks people down. Like, it doesn't make any sense that we treat the quarterback position as such a completely different aspect of football, away from all 52
It makes total sense that we do that, because you can't just do a hot hand with the quarterback, give a quarterback has to put on the build confidence, the cadence. Someone who goes into it and just hand the ball off to a guy and have him run through a hole.
But, I mean, really? Is there that much of a difference? I feel
Yes.
like in the NFL right now, we are overvaluing the quarterback position whenever it comes down to a really good team. Like, if you can put a bad quarterback on a good team and he can flourish, like we've seen with Nick Foles time and time again. But I think that there is some aspect where you can just say, okay, we're going to ride the hot hand. And next season, if you're looking to get Carson Wentz 100% healthy, ride Nick Foles until Nick Foles completely falls off the earth.
Yeah, there are times where you can say, you can do the high the quarterback, but not whenever it's number 2 overall pick from 3 years ago, who looks like an all-pro quarterback before he got injured the year prior. Condition struggling. You can't do that then. With Blake Bortles, and he sucks for 3 straight seasons, you say, okay, Kirk Cousins, you're in. Well, then you're out, you're back in. It's different then.
But it's not really that different. Like, another scenario that I like to point at would be Matt Flynn. Whenever the Raiders threw, or the Seahawks threw all that money on him, they said, okay, Matt Flynn had one great game. The best game any Packers quarterback has ever had. We throw all this money at him. They've completely invested in him. And then what do? They draft Russell Wilson, who they were looking at Russell Wilson drafted as a backup. He comes in, and he just completely dominates training camp, looks awesome. And then what happens 2 seasons after that? They win a Super Bowl. So they treat this position as such a weird thing. It's like no other position in sports gets treated like this.
Well, they don't have franchise right tackles. They don't have franchise running backs. They don't have franchise wide receivers. They only have franchise quarterbacks. And when you think you get that right, you gotta make sure. It's like when you fire somebody, you gotta have documentation. If your franchise quarterback is definitely not the guy, you gotta know. And I don't think you've seen enough yet to fully know with Carson Wentz.
Yeah, and back to the training camp thing. The difference in saying a guy won the battle in training camp than just using the hot hand during the season.
So you think that winning a battle in training camp is more important than what you're actually putting on game film?
In a quarterback situation, yeah, because I've always said you can't take out the quarterback when you get prepared on full confidence and the case is different, 100 different things. Then hand the ball to a guy or have a guy block a guy in front of him.
Yeah, but you look at this team with Nick Foles, like they are more confident with Nick Foles. The team has built a shrine of Nick Foles in their locker room. Like this team has rallied around Nick Foles almost to a fault. Like it's almost weird how much they back Nick Foles, and it's just one of those. I am never in favor of a backup or a guy that you draft early on, throwing him on the bench. But this is one of those rare outliers where, at the end of the day, like we're getting production out of Nick Foles, we're not getting very good production out of Carson Wentz. I mean, realistically, I don't see that there's much controversy there, in my opinion. I really don't. I just think that if Nick Foles gets you into the playoffs this year, you go in next, and even if he wins this game and they still aren't able to make the playoffs, he did absolutely everything that he possibly could have to get you there. I don't see how you can just say, okay, Carson, you're back to being our guy, and we're just going to ride with that. It would make no sense to me. None.
This ballot next offseason.
Yeah.
And then one wins.
I think that's going to be interesting to watch next year. I think it'll be surprising. All right, so we'll get to our second bullet here. The Steelers, guys, have now lost 4 of their last 5 and now have to win next week, and they have to have the Browns beat the Ravens in order just for the Steelers to get to the postseason. Guys, what in the world is their problem?
Well, basically, they just can't close out games. There's all starts when they played Denver.
Yes.
On the 1-yard line, midway through that pick, and then they're saying they're 7-2, not saying they're 7-7, or 8-7. They lost 4 of the last 5 games. They've all been close games, but tonight they could close the game out twice and they didn't. And this is all season that's what's happened since James Conner went down, and they just lost it all. I can't figure it out.
The Pittsburgh Steelers are like the world's greatest drama or soap opera of all time, because I can't remember the last time I watched a Steelers game. I mean, we watched that Steelers game on Sunday. I mean, we were just holding our breath the whole time, the whole fourth quarter. I can't remember the last time I had a Steelers game, or I watched a Steelers game where it's like, well, I got this one wrapped up, I'll flip to a different game and see what's going on. I mean, soap operas are great, but they don't stick around forever. 60 Minutes, your dad was talking about it today. It's the most boring show ever, but he's been watching it, and 60 Minutes has been on forever. The New England Patriots are really boring, and they've been really good for a long time. I just don't know. I don't know what's contributing to them having these peaks and valleys throughout their season. I think it's a part of the coaching. I think it's part of the quarterback. I think it's, having a bit of a diva wide receiver and Antonio Brown, as talented as he is. But there's a whole lot of mix-up here. And it's not just on Le'Veon Bell, really. I mean, Mike Tomlin has created a locker room that is not – they're just not together professionally, and I think it's showing itself on the field.
Yeah, I honestly do think that some of or 90% of this blame has to go back to Mike Tomlin. But if you look back to whenever they started having these problems, the Denver game, I mean, guys, Xavier Grimble is running into the end zone, fumbles the ball at the back of the end zone. Broncos end up getting the ball at their own 20. They lose by 1 score. The Steelers do. And then we look at the Chris Boswell kick. He runs up to kick the ball to send the game against the Raiders into overtime, and he just completely falls. That is a huge rarity in sports. And then, you look at the Chargers game. The Chargers scored 17 points on plays that there should have been flags thrown on, or there was a lack of there wasn't a flag there, or they shouldn't have had the flag. It was so weird, that Chargers game, how they were able to score those points without really no pushback from the refs. And then you look at the Kamara play today against the Saints. Kamara's in the end zone. Joe Hayden standing right behind him, doesn't even make contact with him, and they throw a pass interference. What do the Steelers do? They lose by 1 possession. This seems like a team who, once one bad thing happens to them, they kind of just fall apart. And you have to look at the leadership with that. Like, we know Big Ben's a leader. Like, Big Ben's been there, done that. He's that kind of guy. But, like, Mike Tomlin, like, it seems like everybody's so quick to forget that Mike Tomlin's the same coach that was standing on the sidelines trying to trip Jacoby Jones whenever he was running a punt return back to the end zone. Like, I don't know how we've just completely forgotten about that. Like, that's a big point. Like, I think that if a coach does that, he should automatically get fired, like, on the spot there. But this is just... It's weird to watch a team like this that we've seen have success for so long just completely unravel in front of our eyes. Guys, do you think that they will actually make the postseason? I mean, they're going to have the Browns win, and they're going to have to win themselves.
I mean, I can see them winning the game because they're the most talented team in football, regardless of the record is. But will the Ravens lose to the Browns? I don't think so. The Ravens are playing right now Lamar Jackson. Browns are definitely better team I thought they were going to be, but the Ravens right now is playing maybe the best football in the game.
Yeah, I agree with that statement. Do you guys think that we should see Mike Tomlin get fired at the end of the season?
I said it 3 or 4 years ago that he was on the hot seat. I mean, you got a Hall of Fame quarterback. You have a guy who could be a Hall of Fame running back, and you don't. They've had a lot of divisional success, but it hasn't equated to a whole lot of postseason success as far as Super Bowls. I don't understand. If you're supposed to be a great coach and you have a great QB, you shouldn't really be celebrating divisional wins. And I feel like he should have been on the hot seat a long time ago.
Yeah, I looked at definitely this offseason probably, but just knowing the Pittsburgh Steelers, have they gone from Chuck Noll to Cowher to Tomlin, or it's been like 60 years, not going to fire him. It would take something. It would take
tripping a player.
Yeah, tripping a player.
A really bad PR move, like worse than that even.
And tripping a player. What's worse than a coach getting involved between whistles?
I think there's several things, actually.
Oh, man, that'd be tough.
A coach is...
He'll do some really egregious infractions, but there are things that are worse, but that's...
Like a coach getting caught smoking a blunt with Le'Veon Bell. If he got caught doing that, then that'd probably get him fired.
Yeah, that'd probably get him fired.
Something like that. But no, he'll be there next year, but next year, they'll be a good team again. But if they're not, then he will be fired.
Yeah, I just think that they're in that weird scenario where, like, that's his quarterback, like, that's Big Ben's coach at this point, and I don't think that they're going to fire him. But I think that he's part of the problem there with the Steelers. So, guys, the NFL's postseason is far from set. We still have 15 teams. That's almost half of the NFL that's still in the hunt. All of the division leaders are set except for the AFC North and all of the wild card slots. So, guys, and one wild card slot is actually filled. That's the Chargers or the Chiefs, however that plays out. So, guys, who will be our AFC North champ?
I'm going to go with the Ravens. I think they win.
Yeah, I mean, even if they lose to the Browns, I mean, they could still lock up the division, right?
As long as the Steelers lose.
Yeah, so if they lost, the Steelers have to lose. Yeah, I think the Ravens will lock it up.
And the Steelers play Cincinnati. Cincinnati's probably the best team in football right now. So
yeah, but the Browns are doing that one thing that, like, Browns fans kind of have to hold on to, is just like playing spoiler. So I think they're going to get a really amped up Browns team that's kind of wanting to point back at Hugh Jackson and say, like, look at us. Like, we finished one game out of the playoffs because we sent your ass packing. But I do think that the Ravens, they're just overall better. I think that the Ravens are going to win this game, and, Steelers and Ravens are probably going to both win next week, but the fact that the Ravens really control their own destiny makes them a favorite in my point. So, wildcard teams in the AFC. Guys, who are we liking?
Chargers already locked in to one of the spots, and then the Colts. I think the Colts beat the Titans next week.
I think the Colts beat the Titans too. The Colts have a very athletic roster, and they have Andrew Luck. They have a really smart coach in Frank Wright. So I mean, better coach, better quarterback, and then more athletic roster. I'm going to go with the Colts.
Whoa. Hot take. You're saying Andrew Luck is better than Marcus Mariota or Blaine Gabbert?
Or Blaine Gabbert.
That's the hottest take I've ever heard.
Yeah.
All right, open a window.
Yeah. Get that window open, Fletch. It's getting hot in here.
I know.
I for everything Fletch said, and like the Titans, the only way that they can have success, and we've seen it, is if they are able to turn around and hand the ball off to Derrick Henry and he explodes for 200 yards. And that's not going to happen. The Colts are way too good against the run, and the Colts are just overall better team. And, nobody in the NFL is going to want to play the Colts. Nobody in that team. Like, how great of a consolation prize that is. You won your division. You get to play probably a top 3 quarterback in the NFL and a very solid defense. Like, that kind of sucks. So, guys, wild card team in the NFC. We have 3 potential teams. The Seahawks, we have the Vikings, and we have the Eagles. Guys, who are we locking in?
I'm going to go with Seahawks and the Vikings. Yep.
I'm going Philly and the Seahawks. I think Chicago's going to beat Minnesota. So
Yeah, and the Eagles kind of have...
they're riding high.
Yeah, the
So
Eagles
they really are. I mean,
Yeah, they're riding as high as any team. I mean, they're going to throw Nick Foles out there. They're going to be able to beat the fourth string quarterback for the Redskins. And it is
This
fifth.
is the 5th quarter they've had.
Wow, man, that's crazy.
Who?
Josh Johnson.
oh wow.
But they're getting deep on the depth chart. But I do think that the Eagles are able to win, and I find it hard to see the Vikings being able to beat the Bears this week. I know that it's a home game for the Vikings. If they're able to hold up against the pass rush at all, the Vikings should win that game, but I just don't think that they will. And I think we're actually going to see the Seahawks and the Eagles both sneak in, both teams that nobody in the NFL are going to want to play.
The Vikings fired DiFilippo. John DiFilippo, didn't they?
Yes.
That just blows my mind. If I was
Offensive
Philadelphia, I would do everything to hire him and bring him in.
Yeah, no, I don't. That was such a rare thing to see. Like a team that's in the playoff hunt just go out and fire your offensive coordinator.
Yeah, they had to blame
3 weeks
somebody,
in.
and they couldn't blame themselves for the contract they gave Kirk Cousins. But losing Frank Wright did something to that Eagles roster, and I would get DiFilippo in there as fast as I could.
Yeah, and Vikings, I'm not going to fire Mike Zimmer on playoff berth, so who are you going to fire?
Right.
Yeah, they had to have a fall guy.
Yep.
It might have been the right guy. They're 2-0
Chris
since
Carter?
then.
Hey, Chris Carter played for the Vikings. They know about the fall guys.
Yeah, they do know about the fall guys. So, guys, last bit of NFL before we go to our Week 15 recap. Josh Gordon suspended indefinitely and has come out and said he is stepping away from football to focus on mental health. Guys, this is the last time we've seen Josh Gordon.
Yeah, I think so. I think the violation and just everything. I don't think it's hard for me to see a team sign him to a contract and really put on a team again. Too much risk there.
Well, here's what people need to understand. With addiction, it's not some linear process. Like, you don't just pass through stages and somehow arrive at being cured of your addiction or moving past your addiction. Relapse is a part of the recovery process, and so Josh Gordon falling victim to his addiction isn't cause for shame or demeaning or anything like that. If a man isn't strong enough to overcome his addiction, I mean, you belittling him isn't going to be the cure for it, So, I mean, when you think about it, addiction is a problem that he's struggling with. He's not making a conscious decision between having a job and being, famous and rich and all this stuff versus one joint or whatever drug he was accused of doing. Now, with all that being said, he needs continued support now more than ever, but his employer isn't the one who's obligated to provide that support. He's been provided like 5 chances now, and so they pay him to do a job, and he's continued to violate the rules and policies set in place of his job. And so I feel like 5 chances is enough, and I can't really say that he deserves another chance at this point.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Wow.
Did you guys see?
That was deep. That might have been the deepest we've been on here.
Did you guys see that the Patriots had like a full-on security for him to not mess up?
And he still found
And
a way.
on the week, bye week, somehow he evaded the security team from being Patriots and did whatever. It was. I read a report earlier that they think it's harder drugs than this pot, but
He tested positive for more drugs than just weed.
okay, well, there you go.
Wow, that's an issue. Yeah, I think at this point, like, nobody's really going to take a flyer on the guy, just as a football standpoint. And maybe he doesn't. Like, maybe this is what he needs, Maybe he doesn't need to be in the NFL. Like, obviously, this route's not working for him, so maybe a different route in life will be the answer. I doubt it will be.
Hopefully he doesn't get burnt out, because that's where it's going right now for him.
Yeah, no, this is not a good. This isn't like a simple answer for Josh Gordon, and I do think that he's going to be. This is his last time he's ever seen a football field. XFL though, he doesn't have any felonies, so maybe in like 2020 he can become an XFL player.
So you think the Patriots was Gordon's last stand?
Yes, I do.
You think that maybe the XFL would be more his route?
I do think that could be a good route for him. He does not have any felonies. He might have one of the more uglier rap sheets, but he doesn't have any felonies.
Against the XFL talent, over under 1,800 receiving yards.
Over.
That's a very outrageous thought. Okay, well,
way
outrageous
over.
thought for us.
Yes.
It was all a dream. I used to read Run Up magazine.
College basketball ranking committee this week. Number 1 was unbeaten Kansas. Number 3, Tennessee, only lost to Kansas. Number 2, Duke, whose only loss was to Gonzaga, whom Tennessee had beat. NCAA rankings, you nailed it again. Hey, Dana White, I heard you're looking for a headliner in your UFC 233 card in January. Rick Barnes, Penny Hardaway, book it. Austin Rivers, a guy who played 30 minutes in a must-win playoff game 2 years ago for his father, was dropped by the 8-25 Suns at the age of 26. Life comes at you fast. This isn't anything that I can turn into a joke. I'm just going to tell you what I learned this week. Steve Sarkisian actually played his college football at BYU. Urban Meyer, stepping down as the head ball coach to be assistant athletic director at the Ohio State University, and will also teach a class in leadership and character. I get it. A guy who made Riley Cooper, Aaron Hernandez, and Tim Tebow all coexist and thrive in a locker room has to have his black belt in leadership. But the character portion of the class should get interesting. Zach Smith, a.k.a. Urban Meyer's TA. Nathan Peterman, signed by the Oakland Raiders. This is a very savvy move by my boy Gruden. I mean, you can't give up a ton of yards and first downs if your quarterback's throwing pick sixes. John Gruden, no need for Khalil Mack or Bruce Irvin. If your defense is only going to be out there for 6 plays, the defense is overrated. Mike Tomlin, hot seat. Lamar Jackson, steal of the 2018 draft. Nick Foles, 1 game closer to a max NBA contract. Big Ben, 380 yards, 3 touchdowns and a loss. Cam Jordan, rather have Eli. And there's a new book out this weekend, and it's titled Andrew Miller and Paul Goldschmidt, Still Not Worried. And it was written by Wrigleyville's faithful. And those have been my thoughts. All right, guys. So we'll go ahead and transition back to the NFL a little bit. A little NFL word association for Week 16 recap. Guys, who was your biggest winner?
The Eagles.
Browns. Tell us why, Leighton.
Because they won a game.
They're not going to go 6-10.
Okay. Well, they won last week either. So.
Oh, well, they were the biggest winners last week, too.
Okay.
Big winners.
All right.
My biggest winner is Nick Foles. He's seeing nothing but dollar signs at this point. Biggest loser.
Carson Wentz.
Steelers.
Steelers went from a possible home field advantage throughout the playoffs to out of the playoffs in 4 weeks. Surprise.
Somehow the whole world fell again that Rivers had the Chargers as the best team in football.
That was definitely me. I'm going with the 49ers competing with the Bears for an entire game.
Phil Rivers. Just when we thought he was over the hump, he trips over the hump. Disappointment.
The Steelers just past 5-6 weeks.
Phillip Rivers.
I think we're all thinking on the same week this week.
He pissed me off. I told somebody that the Chargers were the best team in the NFL last week, and then they come out and do what they did, and I was pissed.
Yeah, dude. Anytime you start to ride too high on Phillip Rivers, he'll remind you.
Yeah.
My biggest disappointment, Texans. Lost to the Eagles, and they lost their first-round bye. Impact injury.
Demaryius Thomas.
I'm going with Kendall Fuller, cornerback for the Chiefs. They already have a struggling defense. The last thing they need to do is lose a starting cornerback. And he's still a game time decision.
My impact injury, Todd Gurley. If the Rams don't have Todd Gurley next week, they may be in trouble against the 49ers. The 49ers can hang around. They're a hang-around team. Todd Gurley needs to be back on the field. It was smart to rest him this week, but if this lingers, I think they're in serious trouble. Biggest WTF moment of Week 16?
Nate Bosch laying the wood.
The Eagles beating Houston with Nick Foles.
So did you guys see Roosevelt Nix? He is the guy who tried the 4th down conversion off the fake punt by the Steelers. He gets stopped he gets basically stopped at the line of scrimmage, stands up, does a little dance, points the ball forward like it's a first down, then drops it.
God, that's stupid.
Ball on the Saints ball on their own 50. So biggest overreaction.
The Eagles have a better chance to win the Super Bowl than the Bears, Cowboys, Steelers, Chargers, and Texans.
Me thinking the Chargers were the best team in football last week.
Lamar Jackson.
Lots changes.
A lot can change in 7 days.
Life comes at you fast. Ask Austin Rivers. Lamar Jackson, closer to Mike Vick than we all thought. So, guys, anything else about the NFL week? I know that we're dwindling down last bit here. Anything you guys want to say on the NFL season? Kind of put a bow on it until our last week.
Fantasy football continues to piss me off every week.
Yes.
In some facet.
I don't do FanDuel, so blood pressure's been down on Sundays.
Yeah, that definitely helps. So, guys, we'll go ahead and transition to college football. We'll start it off hot here. Before we get to the real important games, we'll talk about the Peach Bowl a little bit. Michigan versus Florida. Guys, who do you have winning in this game?
I'm going to go with Michigan. And basically behind it might sound like I'm It's kind of the power of the sun here, but Florida has found a way to manufacture points. Let's do a facet of sports, but I mean, let's face it, Michigan's defense is really, really good, and Florida isn't Ohio State at all. Like, Michigan won't play that bad again because the Florida team. Michigan's going to house them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. I think Michigan's going to win. They have the better coach. They have a very real defense. So I'm going to take Michigan in that one.
Yeah, I think this is really, really bad for Florida. Like, they've kind of played above their heads all season. They had some games that they probably should have won that they did lose. But now they're going to get a really mad Michigan team, and everybody's going to think, oh, yeah, Florida, they were bad this year after Michigan beats them as bad as I expect. Like, we're looking at Michigan's defense, giving up 21 points or more 2 times this season, and Florida... that offense has been held under 18 points 4 times already. Like, I really think that the keys to this game is going to be Florida's offense versus Michigan's defense. Like, I don't know if they're going to be able to even score 20 points on Michigan. And Michigan, even when their offense is bad, they score 39 against Ohio State. So I think this is going to be Michigan in a game that's not even going to be close. So we'll go ahead and talk about the college football playoff. The games actually kick off this weekend. We have the Cotton Bowl. We'll talk about that first. Number 3, Notre Dame versus number 2, Clemson. Guys, what are the keys for the game for each team to be able to pull off a winner or a win? And guys, give me your winner.
Basically, for Notre Dame, they've got to find a way to keep up with Clemson because Clemson's defense, especially that front 7, is next level good. And I mean that literally. Like, they're all going to get drafted.
Yes, they will all be drafted.
And Clemson, like we know,
hot take, their 4 starting defensive linemen will be drafted in the first 40 picks in the draft.
Yeah. Exactly. Like, I'm not undefeated, but I'm still not sure how good Notre Dame is. That makes any sense to you? I feel like Michigan is still a better team than Notre Dame is. It's probably the head-to-head record. And how about that Ian Book can keep up with Trevor Lawrence and the Clemson Tiger offense?
You know what's awesome about Notre Dame, though? Like, we're sitting here saying, like, we really don't know how good they are, like, who they played. I saw a Notre Dame fan this week, and I know that only because he was wearing a backwards Notre Dame hat and a Notre Dame jersey. I overheard him saying, well, really, who has Alabama played this season? I mean, that's like the most awesome thing ever. So, Leighton, who do you think's going to win that game?
I'm going to take Clemson. I don't think Notre Dame keeps it close.
Yeah, I agree. For everything you said, Clemson, their defensive front 7, I mean...
maybe better than Alabama.
I was going to say that. I heard a couple people from Fox Sports say the same thing, that they thought they had a better front 7 than Alabama's did. I don't know if that's true or not, but I mean, that shows you how great their front 7 is. They're going to give Notre Dame all they can handle, and Trevor Lawrence is a tremendous quarterback, and so they're going to put up points on the board. Clemson is going to really, pin their ears back with that front 7. I don't think Notre Dame's going to be able to keep up with them as far as the scoring pace, so I got Clemson winning this one.
Yeah, I agree. I think Clemson is going to win this. I mean, like I said, guys, we have 4 defensive linemen that are going to hear their names called the first 40 picks of the draft. Like, that is almost game, set, match. Like, this defensive line, I think that if you just go sheer starters, is better than Alabama's, and I don't even think that that's much of an argument. Now, Alabama does have that weird thing where they have like a 5-star on the bench that they can throw in at any time, for just pass rushing specialty. But if you just go sheer 4 starters, Clemson has them heads and shoulders. And the last time we saw Notre Dame, they won a 1-score game against a 5-7 USC team, and now they get to play Clemson, who hasn't played a game within 18 points since Trevor Lawrence took the helm as starting quarterback and was healthy throughout the entirety of a game. I see the only way that Notre Dame can pull this game out is if they force turnovers. Like, I don't think they're going to be able to stop Clemson consistently enough. It's going to have to come to an abrupt halt with a turnover or, a pick six or a scoop and score. Like, something like that is going to happen, and they're going to have to couple that with an Ian Book perfect game. Because if Ian Book slips up at all, those guys, the pass rush, the front 4 for Clemson will be on him, and they are going to make him pay. But I think Clemson is going to run away with this game, and I think this is going to be by a very, very big margin. So we'll go ahead and talk about the Orange Bowl now. Number 4 Oklahoma versus number 1 Alabama. Guys, same goes for this. What are the keys for each team to win? And give me a winner.
On Oklahoma's side of the ball, Kyler Murray is going to be Kyler Murray. Like, we saw with Deshaun Watson in the past, those kind of quarterbacks just play good against Alabama, and big-time players have up in big-time games. And Kyler Murray's going to have his normal game. So Alabama can do, they can't stop him, but I don't think it's going to work. Oklahoma has to figure out some way to stop Alabama from scoring. Because Alabama can stop Kyler Murray, 2, 3, 4 times. But can Oklahoma stop Alabama once, is the question. And with what we've seen all season long, I can't sit and tell you that they're going to once.
No.
So I'm going to take Alabama in this game by also a pretty large margin because I think they're going to score almost every time they get the ball.
I am so excited for this game. This is the game that I wanted to see just because I wanted to see Kyler Murray against Alabama's defense here. I obviously there are huge question marks with Oklahoma's defense. Can they stop Alabama once? Even if with Jalen Hurts, you like their chances better, but even if they don't, I mean, they're going to milk the clock. Their line's going to push them all over the place, and they're going to establish their run game. And then you'll see the Alabama that you've seen for the past 7 years. But I'm super excited. I hope Kyler Murray can make some magic happen. But I have Alabama winning this game.
Yeah. The thing that I'm going to look back to, like, the last two, this is just kind of like a fun side note to think about. Like, the last two Heisman winners to play Nick Saban in their Heisman season, Cam Newton and Johnny Manziel, and they both won the game. And both those quarterbacks, you know, you could say that they have an almost identical style. Like, I know that Cam Newton's more of like that bruiser runner, but like they're all three dual threat quarterbacks, and we've seen Nick Saban's defenses kind of struggle against that basically over his career. Like, the most comparable quarterback that I could see as Kyler Murray Alabama had played this season to Kyler Murray would actually be Kellen Mond. Kellen Mond actually had success against Alabama's defense, 98 rushing yards, but the only problem with Kellen Mond is that he's not that polished of a passer. Only went 16 for 33 against that defense, which I think Kyler Murray is going to have a little more success than Mond through the air. So I do think that Oklahoma will be able to put up points against Alabama. The biggest key is going to be Oklahoma's defense. If Oklahoma's defense, they don't have to play great, they just have to be good. If they're able to stop Alabama's run game, which is good, it's going to be a tall task. I'm not saying that, you know, there's a chance that they can do it, because I think that chance is slim. But if they are able to stop Alabama's run game, and they're getting a Tua Tagovailoa who is obviously not healthy, did not look healthy in the Georgia game, had surgery, now he's going to expect to roll back out there and look like the quarterback that we had seen over the first 10 weeks of the college football season. I don't think that that's possible for Tagovailoa to look that great, but he doesn't have to against Oklahoma's defense. I think this game's going to be a lot closer than what people think, but I don't think it's going to be Tua, and I don't think it's going to be Jalen Hurts throwing the ball. It's going to be a lot of Alabama, old school, like Fletch said, over the past 7 years, turn around, hand the ball off, and let's just get out of here with a win. So, guys, we'll go ahead and transition gears here. Right before we talk about NBA, guys, we're going to do a little fun segment. In case you don't listen to Hump Day Hoops Hysteria on Wednesday.
You should if you don't.
Yes, you definitely should. If you like basketball at any facet, you need to listen to Hump Day Hoops Hysteria. Fletch gives some of the best basketball knowledge I've ever heard. But we're going to do Fletch's little fun segment that he does on the show. It's called Fletch on the Fly. So, guys, this is how it works. Leighton C. writes down 3 questions, and he will ask Fletcher those questions. Fletcher does not have any notes to prepare, hence the name Fletch on the Fly. Leighton C., take us away.
So every week or most weeks we have a theme for the questions, and Fletcher loves the idea of trades in the NBA, so these are all about trades.
Okay.
Okay, so first question. In any scenario, will Bradley Beal be dealt before the trade deadline?
I mean, there are definitely scenarios that could happen as far as naming particular teams. I mean, I don't know how the money would shake out, but he'd be great on the Spurs. I'm sure. I mean, there are a lot of teams that would like to go after him. I mean, Miami could make a play. They always try to, ever since the big three and the LeBron James decision and all that happened in Miami, somehow people think that Miami's still a contender to sign big-time free agents when that's not really the case. So maybe their best route would be going to acquire a guy who's already locked under contract for a while. That would be good for them. He would be great on the Lakers. He would be great next to LeBron, but they're not going to do that. They're not going to give themselves salary cap restriction like that. There is definitely a scenario where he gets traded before the deadline, though.
Do you think it happens?
I sure hope it does.
All right, so
but I don't know if it will, though.
Okay, so is that a yes?
Sure.
Sure. Okay. Next question. Will the Lakers trade Van Ingram before the trade deadline for this season?
Only in the we're talking 1/10 of 1% right now. In the 1/10 of 1% chance that the Lakers trade for Anthony Davis, that would be the only way Brandon Ingram is moved this year.
Okay. And last question. What big name player could be dealt before the season is over that no one's talking about?
That no one's talking about. Wow. That's a good question. That's a tough one to answer, too. A big name guy that no one's talking about?
Threw a curveball. He can't hit the curve.
No, you can't. You really can't. I almost said Gordon Hayward, but I'm going to talk about the Celtics and their kind of, there's a rule called the player restriction rule. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. Or the player designation rule. I'm going to talk about that. God, a name that no one's talking about, though? That's a tough one. You got any idea?
Not one is also a possibility.
Not one.
God damn, that's a tough question. Because I don't know who you're not talking about. And then everybody who has a star player right now, it seems like they're holding on to him, right? For better or for worse, it seems. So
what if we do this instead of, since you really don't know one that they're not talking about? Who do you think are the top 2 guys that people may be talking about that have a chance to be dealt?
Well, I mean, people are definitely talking about John Wall and Bradley Beal, and those guys being potential trade candidates. And those are the 2 biggest ones that I can really think of off the top of my head. I mean, you look at Toronto; they're not going off of anything. Philly; they're not going off of anything. The thing is, it's so rare to see. I mean, your top 4 or 5 teams in each conference, and even more so than that in the Western Conference, they're not going to come off any of their players. In a normal season, you would see Jimmy Butler being the guy I talked about that would be dealt, most likely to be dealt. And it's so rare that you see guys get dealt that early in the year, because a lot of times when they get signed as free agents or recently traded for, like, they can't be dealt until December 15th of the NBA season. So the blockbuster trade that happened has already happened, really, and so I don't know what's going to take place after this besides Wall and Beal.
Right. All right, so we'll go ahead and dive more into the NBA, and I'm going to kind of put you on the spot, Fletch, since you're the expert. I have brought up at least once before, but I'm going to pick Fletch's brain here on this one. The Nuggets currently hold the first place spot in the West, which is, surprising to me and probably most basketball followers in general. How are we 31 games into the season and Denver is just now getting to double-digit losses?
Well, Leighton started off Humday Hoops Hysteria in our preseason show, and he gave me a list of teams and said, who would be one of these teams to make a top 4 seed? And I gave him the Nuggets, and if I said that they were going to do anything close to what they're doing now, I would be lying, and everybody else would be too, except for maybe your Denver Nuggets super fans or, players in that locker room by chance. But the Nuggets, I mean, they're averaging a little over 110 points per game, but they're 3rd in points allowed this season, which is, I mean, those are 2 great opposite ends to be at from each other. There is a metric called simple rating statistic, and it encompasses...
It sounds like my kind of stat. It just makes it simple.
Yeah. It encompasses, it's a really good number to have. It encompasses strength of schedule, point differential, win-loss, and they factor in something else. I want to say turnovers during a game as well. So, I mean, it's like, free possessions you give away pretty much. Anyway, when all those numbers get encompassed together, they're 3rd in that metric stat as well, which is, I guess, is really impressive because they have been playing really efficient basketball. But then they also have a top 10 net rating in offense and defense, and I think almost every NBA championship for like the last 9, 10, 11 years have been top 10 in both of those numbers. They're 7th in offense and 8th in defense. They also have a very true home court. They have the altitude, so I mean when people come there, you face issues with conditioning or wind and getting up and down the court. The Nuggets play with pace. They shoot the ball well. They've also got a really unique style.
And Von Miller sits on almost every game I've seen. Dude, how weird is that the Denver Nuggets have star power? Every game I've watched, and I'm pretty sure Peyton Manning's even made an appearance at a game or two.
That'd be cool.
They have legitimate star power, which is really weird for the Denver Nuggets to have.
Yeah. Well, they have depth. They have shooting, but then they have a very particular brand of playing, and that's having the point center Nikola Jokic, who can initiate the fast break, he can initiate the offense, he can take the ball coast to coast, he can handle the ball, pass out of the post. He really does so much for them that no other center in the NBA can really do. So when you blend all that together and the development of talent they have with Mike Malone, who's a great coach, well, he's not a great coach, he's a very good coach. He is a coach who actually had the respect of Boogie Cousins in that locker room, which is, that's saying something.
That's a rarity.
That you can wield that kind of personality and manifest it in a positive manner. So commanding the locker room, getting those guys to buy in for each other, it's really kind of a perfect storm for what the Denver Nuggets have going here.
Yeah, usually if Boogie Cousins likes you, there's an issue with you.
That's why I thought the Kings were so dumb in letting him go. It's like you finally found somebody that Boogie likes and you're going to fire him now? That's half the battle with them.
Would you say that next to LeBron James, Nikola Jokic, the most important player to his team's success?
Next to LeBron James?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
He was my dark horse for MVP.
he's MVP frontrunner right now, I think. A few weeks ago when the Bucks were still lighting the world on fire, I said Giannis was the MVP. But all reality, the Nuggets being the 1 seed like this, and Jokic putting up the numbers he's doing with his team's success, I mean, I think he's got to be your front runner with LeBron second because the
I
Lakers.
think he's my favorite player to watch. It's so weird because he is like an actual center.
Yeah.
but
It's like moving in slow motion.
yes, he does. It's basically like a slow motion LeBron. Is what I'm watching. So like LeBron, sometimes he's like way too fast for me to even see. Like that. Whenever he ran down the court and blocked the shot, like everybody's standing around like, what the hell just happened?
Yeah.
Like Nikola Jokic, I can at least see it coming from like a mile away.
Yeah.
The same result, but just a real weird way to get there. So, Fletch, a guy that you were huge on coming into the season. I mean, you were probably one of the only guys that I had heard come out and say, hey, this is the best player in the draft.
Yep.
You're crazy not to take him.
Yep.
Was Luka Doncic. Now, he's averaging 18.8 points per game, 6.5 rebounds, and 4.9 assists per game, with over a steal per game.
Yep.
What do you think has been the biggest factor to his success, and why is he so good?
Well, I mean, when you got a guy flirting as a rookie with 19, 7, and 5, a steal, shooting 37% from 3, it's. I mean, that's better than like LeBron James in his rookie year. And Doncic is a guy who is extremely polished offensively as far as handling the ball, seeing the court, and shooting the ball. He's 6'7", he's 220 pounds. The Atlanta Hawks got to be kicking themselves. I mean, Trae Young's great, but Trae Young is going to be hitting a rookie wall like no other very soon. And people talk about how small Steph Curry is and the durability questions with him. I mean, Trae Young is 6'1", 175 pounds. So, I mean, they could have had Luka Doncic, and I mean, he's going to do these kind of numbers wherever he's at. It's not like Dallas. I mean, Dallas has a very good team around him. They have some nice pieces with Jordan and Harrison Barnes and Wesley Matthews.
But sometimes for like rookies, it's harder to succeed in that environment.
Yeah.
Like actually put up numbers.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, like his teammates, Rick Carlisle talks about it all the time. His teammates love playing with him, and I mean, he sees things that players will never see. But as far as what's made him this, I mean, he got signed to play at Real Madrid when he was like 14 or 15 years old. They plucked him out of an academy over in Slovenia. He and this is kind of all I dug up all this stuff on him, and then I watched him a lot over the years. And I'm going to tell you, how he's so good, why he's so good, why I said all this stuff about him. He was the youngest person to ever be signed professionally to play basketball, and then when I was in Spain. Let's see how many years ago now. 3 or 4 years ago now, I guess. He was starting for Real Madrid at 15, 16 years old.
I remember whenever you actually told me about this dude like 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah, and so I was actually over at somebody's house, and I was in Spain there for a while, and I'm like, Luka Doncic, he's starting on this team. He's 15, 16 years old. I'm like, he could be a number 1 pick one day. Never in my wildest dreams did I think this, but I went and looked him up on 2K, and it's like, that dude is on the game. As he keeps going, like there's no way he just can't improve. And the next couple of years, he's putting up really impressive numbers. He won Most Improved Player of the Year. Then he went into Eurobasket of 2017, and his team won gold, I believe. And they beat Latvia, who was led by Kristaps Porzingis. They beat that team. They beat Spain, and people on who called the game, draft analysts, college basketball experts, they said Luka Doncic was the best player on Slovenia's team, and Slovenia had Goran Dragic playing on their team as well. And I'm like, holy shit, that's 17 years old. And they're like, he is the best player on his team. You look up his numbers there. I mean, he shot over 40% from 3, averaged over 20 a game. I'm like, holy shit. Comes back for his last year at Real Madrid, wins Most Improved Player of the Year again somehow. His team wins.
Dude, how good do you have to legitimately get? Like
to win it back to back.
To win it back to back years. Like I feel like after the first time, everybody's like, okay, yeah, he's on our radar.
Here.
And then like to make your jaw drop again after you were already like, how good do you have to get? That's unreal.
They then they won La Liga, which is the national basketball league in Spain. Then they won the Euro League, which is the best collection of each of those teams. It's like the top 2 or 3 teams from each league, and they all wind together and play in a big tournament. And it's like it's set up in rounds, and you move on from round stages. It's kind of like the World Cup where you have your group stages and you move on by the rounds that you play. Anyway, he won that, and he won EuroLeague MVP all at 18 years old. And so he really played, coming into the NBA, he played 2 straight years of basketball with the La Liga and then the Eurobasket, and then La Liga and the EuroLeague again. So he didn't even play in the summer league, but I mean, you don't just have players who do this. This is nobody has ever been this decorated coming into the NBA draft. If he had played in college, he would have dominated them. I mean, he was forced to. People always talk about playing against grown men and like how it makes you mature physically, but it also makes you mature mentally as well. Like you pick up good work habits. You have to go against guys who are smarter basketball players than a guy who's 18 years old who's just been given everything he wants from his high school coach and his AAU coach. So he grew up in a perfect environment that led him to become this amazing player that he is today.
Just for the Dippers who don't really understand, how would Real Madrid perform in this tournament?
I'd beat a lot of teams. I mean, you got a guy, Sergio Llull's been drafted and he's been offered contracts with the NBA. He was their starting point guard for a while until Luka Doncic got there. And actually, the year that they won La Liga and the EuroLeague, Sergio Llull was out the whole year with an ACL tear, and so he led them without their best player. But he has refused NBA contracts. Jeffrey Taylor, guy who played with the Charlotte Hornets, he's over there. Anthony Randolph, guy who went to LSU and played with the Denver Nuggets for a long time, he's over there. Willie Tavares, who's like a 7'4" center, played with the Hawks and the Cavs, he's over there. Rudy Fernandez, the guy who played with the Trailblazers, he won a dunk contest. He's over there. I mean, there are a lot of dudes.
Yeah, the point I'm trying to get to that was like he was playing big men over there.
Yeah,
like,
well,
really good teams.
Fran Fraschilla said La Liga is the best league outside of the NBA, and so I mean he was playing and dominating that league at the highest level possible.
Yeah. Do you think that how much room for growth do you see this guy having? Like,
oh my God.
Because the thing, a lot of people are going to knock him and say, "Oh, this is just early success because he's a young player, yes, but mentally he's been playing professional basketball for all these years, so he's not going to develop as much as, say, a guy like Trae Young who played, high school basketball and then 1 year of college, propelled straight to the NBA." Like, do you think that there's room to growth for this guy? Because I mean, you look at him; he's a 6'7" player, but he sees a court better than most NBA point guards who've been around the league for 6 years.
Yeah.
Like, it's unbelievable.
He's definitely got room to improve. He can improve his three-point shooting, even though it is 37%. He's only shooting about 44% from the field. He's going to get better at that. The longer you play in the NBA, the slower the game seems, so that's going to improve points, and that's going to improve assists for sure. He's definitely, with professional, NBA doctors and trainers and dietitians and stuff like that, you're going to see his body kind of get reshaped. I mean, he's not as tight as he could be physically, and I think that's going to improve. That's going to improve his athleticism, his first step, his second step, his first jump, his second jump, how he finishes at the rim. He's already sneaky fast. He's already sneaky athletic. I think you're going to see the physical prowess improve over the next couple of years. The game's going to slow down. The shot's going to be more efficient. So to think that he's peaked early and somehow just kind of ahead of the curve, I don't think that's true. I think there's still a lot of room for improvement.
Right. Okay, I'm going to put you on the spot. Is he going to be in the GOAT discussion one day?
He very well could be. He seriously could be.
Right.
I mean, the dude's a rookie.
That's enough for me.
The dude's a rookie, man, and he's averaging, 19, 7, and 5. You just don't see dudes do that very often.
No, I agree. It's unbelievable, and he is awesome to watch. So one of the rumors that's been jumping around the league now is the possibility of Anthony Davis going to L.A. He actually came out and said that his legacy means more than money. Do you see AD going to the Lakers maybe before the season's over or whenever his contract's up? When do you see him heading to LA, and do you think LA would be the landing spot?
Well, he's not given any kind of indication whether he's staying or leaving, and of course New Orleans trying to do all they can to be loyal and make him want to stay. They're saying there's absolutely no chance we trade Anthony Davis.
$240 million will speak a lot to a man.
Yeah, and that's great to say publicly, but they have to have contingency plans in place if Anthony Davis were to leave, were to want to be traded, what they would do, what they would expect. And so, with that being said, AD, like you said, he said, if I had to choose between money and legacy, I'm choosing my legacy. And that, I haven't heard that talked about as much, but that's got to be a huge blow to the Pelicans because they offered him a boatload of cash, 2 boatloads of cash. And he's still saying, like, if I were to go to a team that could contend, I would rather do that than make an extra $140 million. I mean, that's got to send a chill down your spine if you're the GM for the Pelicans. So you definitely have to entertain ideas. In my opinion, what should happen, the Lakers should try to go for him now. They might as well get him in-house as soon as they can, get all the time they can with LeBron and AD together. LeBron makes guys better, and LeBron's, a lot of people can play with LeBron. He can play with anybody. But Chris Bosh said when they first traded for Kevin Love that first year back in Cleveland, he says, I mean, you have to learn how to play with LeBron. I mean, LeBron is a ball dominant guy who's a great player, and he demands a lot out of you. You got to learn how to play with him. And so I think the more time that you get to spend with AD and LeBron together, less of a learning curve takes place when it's like, okay, can they compete for a title? When that phrase starts to come up, the more chemistry they have then. So, and the thing is, Boston actually cannot trade for Anthony Davis until June 1st. There's a strange rule with a player designation that when so many pieces move around, contract structure and stuff like that, that you've kind of almost reached kind of like a threshold with trades and moves you can make. So they can't trade until this new kind of fiscal year sets in, when the new sets of contracts come up. So there is one trade. I tried about 3 or 4 different trades here. There's one trade that works as far as the money's concerned with Anthony Davis, and they just deal for Anthony Davis straight up. They give Brandon Ingram, Lonzo Ball, and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. That's how you make the money work. You're going to have to throw in a lot of picks there, a lot of fillers to make it work, to make them want to actually pull the trigger on that. I tried Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram, and Kyle Kuzma. That doesn't work with the money. Then I tried Pope, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Brandon Ingram, and Kyle Kuzma. It doesn't work with the money. Kuzma was drafted too late to make the trade work, and then I tried Kuzma and Ingram again with Rondo just to see if a little more money would make a difference. And again, it doesn't change it any way or another. So, but the Pelicans seem to be really kind of stronghold in their position of not trading Anthony Davis. But if I were the Lakers, I would really push as much as I can as far as acquiring Anthony Davis this year before the deadline.
Yeah, I think that would be a really fun thing to watch, like LeBron and AD. I don't think it gets much better than that.
Yeah. Well, I've always said, he's played with Chris Bosh and he's played with Kevin Love. I've always said that instead of having that power forward who is talented, like Kevin Love and Chris Bosh are talented, but they kind of get relegated to standing around the three-point line a little bit too much. And I've always said that he would be much better off playing with a dominant center who could just go inside and do his thing, defend, rebound, play inside.
Is McGee not doing it for you?
He's doing some of it okay. I mean, he's leading the league in blocks up there, top 5. But he with AD, I mean, he can go down low and score on anybody at any time, and you can just have whoever. I mean, you could have Ersan Ilyasova just sitting out there knocking down threes, no problem.
Right.
But you would not have that talent inside. So I think he would complement him more than you've seen other big men in the past.
Right. I think that'd be interesting. I think that'd be really fun to watch. So we'll go ahead and stick on the topic of LeBron here. He actually came out and said that the NFL owners are a bunch of old white men who have the slave owner mentality. And they're like, this is my team, do what I say or I'll get rid of you. What were your thoughts on his comments there?
Well, I mean, he's right. I mean, the NFL owners are a bunch of old white men. He got at least half that right. But first things first, no one's feeling sorry for any professional athlete in the United States to be considered in the top 1%. Your household income has to be approximately over $422,000 a year. So the NBA league minimum is $582,000, and the NFL league minimum is approximately $480,000. So think about it like this. The 53rd man on an NFL roster and the 17th man on an NBA team who's on a two-way deal on a G League team are both in the top 1%. No one's feeling sorry for them. Now, LeBron really isn't the first athlete to compare the NFL labor practices to slavery. Adrian Peterson made these same comments about their labor practices back in 2011. So really, what LeBron and AP's comments try to draw attention to are the NFL's contract structure. You look at non-guaranteed contracts, not fully guaranteeing money, the restriction of player mobility and player expression due to the franchise tag and personal not being able to wear cleats, gloves, custom cleats. No other professional sports league does that. And it's weird. I mean, you mean to tell me that a multi-billion-dollar nonprofit organization can't guarantee money, can't guarantee contracts, is going to limit player expression and limit player mobility, not allowing players to control where they want to play, or at least let them fully test free agent waters. LeBron and AP's comments, I mean, they aren't really entirely accurate at all, but what they're intended to do is apply pressure to the NFLPA and the NFL to negotiate a new CBA that more fairly compensates its employees relative to other professional sports.
Yeah, but like the only bad thing about that is that like these players did have a say at one point because I mean they were the ones that did halfway negotiate this thing. Mm-hmm. So I just don't think that it's fair to say to compare it to being a slave owner. Like
no, that's entirely inaccurate.
Yeah, that's.
But what his comments were intended to do was to draw the disparities in between an NBA franchise or an MLB franchise. And I get it. They negotiated, that contract. But, I mean, all contracts come up to an end. And with new information, with new streams of revenue, I mean, things have to change. Players have to be compensated. I don't think anybody would really argue that either.
No, I agree. I do think that the NBA...
It's a multi-billion-dollar, non-profit organization. What the NFL is, they fine players, they restrict players and what they can do, what they can wear, where they can go, and then you add on top of that, not guaranteeing contracts. You sign a contract for 4 years and you sign it for $27 million, but then only, so much of it is guaranteed. That I think that needs to be revisited.
Yeah, I do too.
And I think that's what the comments were meant to land as.
Yeah,
but with obviously.
That's a brash way to say it.
It's very brash. It's very bold.
I think it's almost too bold.
Yeah, but you're probably right, though, because LeBron doesn't make that bad PR moves. I mean, he says some pretty bold things sometimes, but he never felt calling a whole group of people racist slave owners.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. There's definitely a better way to articulate that message. He made the comments on his show on HBO, The Shop, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so... The kind of aura that he wants to exude on that show, the persona that he wants to exude on that show is very raw and unfiltered. And I think in a particular setting with people that he feels comfortable with, that was how he chose to express it. And obviously it might have set well with them, but for a lot of middle class, working class, lower class Americans, it obviously didn't resonate at all.
Yeah, I think that's kind of where I stand. Like, I do think that there is an issue there with the NFL, but I don't think that's the way to say it.
Yeah.
And you look at the NFL, like, and then he even points forward to, in his comments, to say, like, do what I say or I'll get rid of you. Isn't that really any employer? I mean, any employer that you work for, you have to do what they say, right?
Yeah, you do have to do what they say. And I'm okay with that to a certain extent. Like, you have to have stipulations in contracts, like we talked about earlier with Josh Gordon. You violate policies related to drugs or alcohol or whatever the case may be, conduct in general. You have to be held accountable to some extent. But just because, let's say that you get signed to a contract, you get hurt, and it's a 2-year deal, they cut you. You only make 3 weeks of your pay, and then you don't even get the last half of it, and then where are you going to be at then?
No,
that's an issue that needs to be addressed. I don't think... You look at a Josh Gordon issue like that, I mean, he's been my favorite player for a long time, but at this point you have to say, like, you're out. You've had as many chances as we can give you. You're violating our rules, versus getting hurt or just not being good enough and then saying, "Hey, we're coming off your contract because we can."
Right. I don't know. Something will change. It'll be interesting to see, though. I
want a really bad CBA dispute here.
Oh yeah, the NFL, their whole CBA deal is going to be very interesting. I fully expect that whenever that comes up, that there's going to be an NFL lockout. Mm-hmm. I think that's almost inevitable at this point.
I hope so.
Even the NBA, like the NBA, we saw a lockout. Like any time that this comes back around, there's always a lockout. I think that we will be sitting with without an NFL season for a good portion of a season.
Real quick, in sports, they talk about people say, "Oh, these guys, they make so much money and this and that," and they do. I mean, they make a lot of money. They make more money in 1 year than a lot of people will ever make in their entire lives. But they look at professional athletes and say, "You've made so much money. What do you want a little more for?" But that's only because ESPN and Fox Sports shows you exactly what they're making their contract. You don't know what Mark Cuban or Jerry Jones is netting each year.
Oh, yeah.
And so they talk about players taking less money. How about owners take less money? How about you cap what owners can make? How about that they provide a certain payback dividend of once they reach their threshold of money they're allowed to make, they just divide it up equally and spread it to their staff, their players. I mean, why is that never an option? I don't understand that.
No, I
and that's in all sports.
Yeah, well, it seems like, if you just look at, like, the world in general, like, anybody that works, everybody basically has a job. Everybody at their job sits there and thinks, like, oh, well, that guy at the top, he's making all the money. How come I'm getting, basically, I'm getting the short end of the stick here at the end.
Yeah.
But then whenever it comes to professional athletes, people never look at it that way.
Yeah.
You're always on the employer's side or the employee's side until it comes to professional sports.
Yep,
and then
I
it
agree.
seems like we just completely flipped the script on that.
Yeah. Well, it's just because it's made relevant to them. It's that information is known to them, and then that owner who doesn't I mean, nobody even knew who Donald Sterling was until the tapes and the audio was released about him with the comments he was making. It's just not a sight, out of mind thing, you know?
Yeah, I agree with you there. So we'll kind of get off of the serious subject here, and we will have a little bit of fun. Guys, we play darts each week. Pew, 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 pew. We're playing darts, baby. Since we have Fletch in studio today, we will go back to the well with the game that he invented. So, guys, the way that this game works, we will each throw a dart. Each dart represents something, or each number on the dartboard represents something. This week, it will be hypothetical cross-platform trading in sports, where one city will send a player from X sport to another city from a player from a Y sport. Fletch, since you're the guest host here, take us away.
I should say, the first time in 74 show if I'm not throwing first.
Oh, wow.
Go ahead and throw.
Take it away, Fletch.
Beat you to it.
We have a 2.
We have a 2. A 2 is LeBron James for Andrew Luck.
Oh.
LeBron James goes to the Pacers.
Yes,
and
yes,
goes
yes,
to the
yes.
Rams.
You know what's crazy? Drake and I talked on the phone probably twice in the past week, and both times I brought up to him, man, think if LeBron James was on the Pacers. And then he was like, did he even really consider the Pacers? I said, no, not at all. But I'm just saying, think if we had him, though. The Pacers, we were the hottest team in the NBA last week. We won 7 games in a row. We were like 8-2 in our last 10, sitting in the 3 spot. We rode the wave. We weathered the storm without Oladipo. We even started our win streak without Oladipo. I just keep thinking, looking at plays, looking at time on the court, think of how good Thad Young's playing. Imagine if that was LeBron James out there for you instead. We'd be the best team in the NBA. I mean, we're defensively, we're top notch. We have shooters. We have the best rim protector in the NBA with Miles Turner. We have the best 3-point shooter with Bojan Bogdanovic, shooting 49% from 3. We've got arguably the best shooting guard in the NBA, or in the Eastern Conference,
LeBron
rather.
would love Bogdanovic.
He would.
Because he's just like that gritty-ass dude that stays out of the way on offense, and then he'll just shoot a 3 when he's open.
We got a 2-headed horse at point guard with Corey Joseph and Darren Collison, and we got arguably the 6th man of the year with Sabonis. LeBron would have slotted in perfectly in Indiana.
Yeah.
And the thing is, Andrew Luck to the Rams.
That'd be awesome.
I think that's a lock for at least going to the Super Bowl.
Dude, no, both teams win a title immediately.
I think
If you make this trade, they win a title this year, they probably win a title next year.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Andrew Luck with legitimate pieces like that, yeah, I would do this trade in a heartbeat. I don't know if LA would. Well, they get a Super Bowl. I think LA would do it too.
Yeah, they get a Super Bowl right off the bat instead of 4 years with LeBron.
Yeah.
Yep. So, unanimous, yes?
Oh, absolutely, dude. Andrew Luck, the difference between Andrew Luck and Jared Goff, just look at Jared Goff's last 3 games. When has Andrew Luck looked bad all season?
When he had a lacerated kidney, seriously.
Yes. I think this is pretty unanimous. And how many times would we actually say that we would send LeBron out of LA?
Rather than get back Andrew Luck, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to take a big fish to do that, and Andrew Luck is that big fish, so.
Yeah, I think that's a no-brainer. All right, Leighton C., your throw. And we have an 8.
8. Odell Beckham Jr. for Karl Anthony Towns. Odell goes to the Vikings. Karl goes to the Knicks.
The Knicks? That's interesting.
All right,
that is very interesting.
So Karl Anthony Towns to the Knicks and OBJ to the the Vikings.
I don't think the Vikings need another wide receiver.
I agree with you. For that reason, I don't think I'd do the trade. Honestly, either side, because I don't see the Giants getting Odell Beckham Jr. for Karl Anthony Towns either with the Vikings or the Giants have right now as their kind of skilled group of guys that's very hard to give up, especially the NBA with all the contracts coming up next season. And vice versa, Vikings don't need a receiver really, and you Karl Anthony Towns.
Dude, could you... what are you going to do if you... the Vikings would never run a 2 wide receiver set. They would always have 3 wide receivers out there at all points of the game. Because, obviously, it'd be so deep. Thielen, Diggs, OBJ. That would be fun to watch, but, if you can't get the job done with Thielen and Diggs alone, is OBJ really going to help out that much? And then the fact that you're going to lose Karl Anthony Towns, they're really not going to win anything in Minnesota, probably through the duration of his career. So, I wouldn't do the trade.
No.
I wouldn't do the trade. And if you send Karl Anthony Towns to the Knicks, how good are they going to get? Yeah. Him and Porzingis would be fun to watch. But I feel like we're working our way into a worse Boogie and Anthony Davis scenario.
It'd be cool to see with Porzingis and Towns playing together, but Minnesota's got to say no to that just because of their horrible cap situation they'd be in, paying OBJ all that money and Kirk Cousins all that money.
Oh my goodness!
And the thing
They'd
is,
bankrupt the city.
I know, man. And one extra wide receiver to an amazing wide receiver core doesn't move the needle. I mean, you got Kyle Rudolph at tight end, and you got Dalvin Cook. No, I wouldn't do that trade either. It's cool to think about, but I wouldn't do it.
Yeah. So unanimous, no.
Unanimous, no.
All right, now my throw, and we have a 6.
6. Steph Curry for Stephon Diggs. Steph Curry goes to the T-Wolves. Stephon Diggs goes to the 49ers.
Well,
Ooh, depends on if Garoppolo's healthy.
Well,
again.
we'll just say next season Garoppolo's there.
That makes things interesting.
it changes it a lot.
Oh man, I think that the Warriors are going to run themselves into a weird spot next year, and I think that the Warriors' reign is done after this season. Which, if you sent Steph Curry to the Timberwolves, it would make them
A lot better.
way better.
Yeah.
I mean, we'd be talking about them as a top 4 seed, maybe even better, potential title candidate. And Stephon Diggs going to the Niners, they really don't have a legit number 1 wide receiver. I mean, the 49ers are about as gritty as any team, and if you give Kyle Shanahan on top of a gritty team with the way he's able to get people in open field, that makes the 49ers pretty damn good. I would do this trade. I would do this trade for both sides, just because I think Golden State's their run is done after this season. Now, this trade has to be done after the season. After this season, I would 100% do it. Right now, with Golden State still having hopes to win a title, I would say no. But if we wait till the end of both of these seasons, absolutely yes.
I would not do this trade if I was San Francisco. Because Steph Curry, they might be over this year as far as them having Kevin Durant. But they can still have, Steph, Clay, and Draymond Green, who they won, what was it, record games. Can't remember the number right now.
It was
73 games.
73 games.
They had to lose in the finals.
I only know how many they lost.
Yeah, 9.
Yeah.
So, and he is the face of the franchise. I don't care what Kevin Durant's done. Steph Curry is the Golden State Warriors. And Stephon Diggs 49ers, look good, put a good number with Garoppolo, but a lot of receiver in history has got you to Super Bowl, or at least one you won.
Jerry Rice, Leighton.
I'm going to say yes to this trade for one simple reason. 49ers, they want to have a good football team. They'll do anything it takes. And the Warriors got plenty of talent to go around. Missing one All-Star is not going to kill you. You get way better with Minnesota as far as their basketball team's concerned. Their team on football right now isn't really doing a whole lot anyway. They're not really, they're not barn burners by any means. I don't think losing Stephon Diggs is going to really just sink your ship for you. So I would do it. I think the Warriors could withstand to lose the talent. I think San Francisco wants a football team. I think Minnesota would gain enough out of it getting Steph Curry for their basketball team to withstand losing Stephon Diggs. Stephon Diggity.
Yeah, if Steph Curry left, though, there's no way Kevin Durant re-signs because there would be no chance at a title.
yeah, pretty much. I mean, they'd have it. If Boogie comes back this year, I think they definitely got enough talent to compete. But it's how many All-Stars do you really need?
Yeah, it'd be fun. So what, Leighton? Recap that for us.
So we are sending LeBron to the Pacers.
That's
for
a duh.
Andrew Luck.
That's the funnest one we've
for
done
the
yet.
Rams. We are not sending Odell Beckham Jr. to the Vikings and Anthony Towns to the Knicks. Both of those are unanimous. And we are sending Steph Curry to the Timberwolves and Stephon Diggs to the 49ers. That is a 2-1 split.
Via split decision there.
All right.
How about the very first one we did of this?
What was it?
It was what was it? It was Chris. It was Chris Bryant for Antonio Brown.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that was. Oh
Oh, yeah, I bet you'd like to do that one again, wouldn't you?
Yeah, we
do that now.
I'm not gonna say.
Oh, dude, your Bears team would be even more loaded.
Yeah, they would, but locker room problems. I like my wide receivers out there fighting Richard Sherman like they were today, and I don't think AB would be that kind of guy to go out there and get in a fist fight. So
We don't pick his hands. He needs those.
that's true. Yeah, he needs his hands.
You like your wide
Chris,
receivers.
And Chris Bryant, Shulapop might not be signing with you guys. Might go into free agency.
You like your wide receivers like a nice dry bar of soap, not a fancy ass lotion. Is that what it is?
Yeah, a little gritty soap. Yeah, I'd probably do that trade. So, guys, let's talk a little college hoops here. We'll switch gears. Kentucky, since losing on opening night by 34 to Duke, they played some of the best basketball in the country, highlighted by an 8-point win over UNC on Saturday. We know the MO on Kentucky every year, basically. They're super young, super talented. It just takes a little bit of time. So, guys, what type of ceiling do you think that this team really has at this point? And do you think that this team's going to continue to develop to be a Kentucky team that we're used to seeing?
Well, just how you said, like, you're right. They do have young players. The second recruiting class, and therefore they lack experience. They do it every single year. But from just a pure talent standpoint, they're good in the country because of it. So basically, what happens with Kentucky is they either play to their own potential or they'll play to their opponents. And that's just because they're also young, it's just out of experience. And because of that, this team can get to the Elite Eight or the Final Four, and you get that far, you're going to win the whole thing. So I think the ceiling is a championship, but can they string together enough good game where they play to their own potential to win that?
I'll tell you what. I mean, Kentucky, they're 9-3. They've got some quality wins, I guess. They had the big loss to Duke, like you said. But then they had some really gritty wins over SIU, over Winthrop, over Tennessee State. They lost to Seton Hall by 1. They had another gritty win over UNC Greensboro. And then they did have the nice win against North Carolina. But in my mind, what I'm seeing from Kentucky is, I've been saying it for about a year now, and I wish I could find a better word to say, and I feel like I'm a broken record at this point, but they just look lost on offense and defense. They have no fluidity. They have no cohesion together. And so I think you're seeing a team getting ugly wins. They're playing ugly, and they're forcing other teams to play ugly, but they're just a little better at playing ugly than other teams. So that's really kind of what it is. I mean, their first real impressive win to me was North Carolina, and I saw it on the television set before the game was on. I'm like, well, I think North Carolina, I think that game could get kind of out of hand. And the next thing you know, Kentucky's pulling it out down the stretch somehow. So I think that's kind of Kentucky's brand for at least this year. It obviously changes year to year with the fluctuation of players they have. But I think what it is they're going to force teams to play ugly all year, and they're going to try to defend hard. And if they can do that, then that's the recipe for success. But the SEC conference schedule is going to be tough for them.
Yeah, the SEC is going to be an absolute grind this year in basketball for them. And it's really weird to say because the SEC basketball has not been that great over the past few seasons. But, you know, what I kind of learned from Kentucky's win, because I was just like Fletcher. Like, right before that, I was doing something, I'm like, oh, I need to bet that game. You know, like, that'll be easy win for UNC. And then all of a sudden it turns back around and Kentucky wins the game. And they impressively held UNC under 75 points for the second time all season. The only other team to do it was Michigan. And Michigan's a team that we're looking as like a serious title threat. Now, Kentucky, it's weird for Kentucky because I feel like they get these really good recruiting classes, but like back whenever they were getting the number 1 overall recruiting class, it was basically Kentucky, like 5 miles of airspace, and then like recruiting class number 2. And we're starting to see the team, you know, the players just aren't as good, and we're going to have to see like Coach Calipari really dive into this team and basically pull something out if he wants to, you know, have any success in the postseason. I do think that this team does have a potential to be an Elite 8 team. I wouldn't be surprised at all if at the end of the season Coach Calipari is able to revenge that loss to Duke. Like, would you guys be surprised at all with like what we've seen out of Calipari in the tournament?
I'd be surprised just because of how good Duke have played all season long, how bad they beat Kentucky that first game. I would be surprised for that reason. But like I said, with the talented they are.
Yeah.
What, on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being the least and 10 being the most, where would you be surprised? Like, what would the number be?
Like 7 or 8 probably.
See, I'm a lot lower than that. I mean,
I'm
like,
way lower than that.
I would be surprised, but I would probably be a 3 or a 4, just because, like I talked about it before when we talked about Duke, they don't have a lot of height. So what they have to do is they have to get a lot of ball denial and pressure on the perimeter with Zion, Cam, and RJ, but they don't have a lot of depth. And so, I mean, if you force to play that way, guys get tired, guys get in foul trouble. You have foul trouble.
Zion the other night.
Yeah, I mean, you have foul trouble that occurs, you know. I mean, Kentucky, if they're making teams play ugly and then they get in foul trouble or they're tired or whatever, I could see a win happen. I would be surprised, but again, it'd be 3, 4, 5 instead of a 7 or 8, so.
Yeah, and you know, like, they have 2 guys that can score. Like, Kentucky has 2 guys that can score with anybody else in the country.
Yeah, Keldon Johnson's legit.
Yeah, he's very, very good. Like, they have 2 guys that can score. They can make things ugly on the defensive side of the ball, hold teams like UNC under 75, which is the second time it's happened all season. And then, I mean, if you just look at, like, who's beating who, like, you have Duke, who got beat by Gonzaga. Gonzaga got housed by UNC, and then Kentucky was able to beat UNC, which is kind of real weird in a reach. But, like, come March, you know, Cal's going to have the boys rolling. I don't know if I'd be surprised. And I think that this team, what do you guys think that their ceiling is? Do you think that this is a team that can win a national title?
Yeah, I've always said that.
No national title. I mean,
You think they can?
Kentucky?
Yes.
Yeah, I think they're talented enough too. They got enough good games together to do it. But well, I think they will know, but they could.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I mean they could for sure, but I don't see it happening. The Elite Eight, Final Four, sure, but I just don't see national championship quality written on this team.
Yeah, I'm excited to see them play Tennessee. I don't know.
Oh,
why,
God,
I'm obsessed with Tennessee's basketball team, dude.
I knew you would be.
Dude, they're so fun to watch.
What's that one guard's name? It's like something Williams or whatever.
Grant.
Yeah, the
Grant
big
Williams?
strong guy.
Yeah, he's not a guard, dude.
Oh, what position is he?
He's a center.
Oh, God.
Like, dude, everybody.
He plays everywhere though. I mean,
Yeah.
I've watched highlights. I'm like, what is he doing out there?
No, he. Well, I don't know if he's like a true. I don't think they really have a true center, but he's like their big. Him and Admiral Schofield are both like their tallest guys on the floor at any time, and they're
Is he only like 6'8" or something?
Yeah.
I was okay because he doesn't look like that imposing as far as like a big man. But dude, yeah, I've seen him play all over the court. I just assumed he was a guard or a
Yeah, he
forward or
was SEC
something.
Player of the Year last year.
Yeah.
And Admiral
He's a stud.
Admiral Schofield will probably be the SEC Player of the Year this year. So I think Tennessee, I think they're going to win a national championship, and they're fun to watch. And I'm excited for that Kentucky game. So we'll go ahead and talk about some little dogs here. Two of the country's best mid-major teams lost this week. Furman fell to LSU. Buffalo dropped a game to Marquette. Both were their first losses of the season. Guys, how good are these two individual teams? Because it seems like mid-majors always get walked on and nobody really thinks about them until March. But here we had two teams that were ranked in the top 25 that were playing really good basketball. How good do you think these teams actually are?
So Furman, I don't think Furman is very good. I mean, they're a good team, but they're kind of okay. They do have good wins over Villanova and Syracuse. But for me, the team to be considered like one of the better teams, they have to just beat the shit out of middle school. They're not doing that. They have single-digit wins over Loyola, beat them by 2. They beat Gardner-Webb by 2. Beat WCU by 2. I don't know what the fuck WCU stands for.
Yeah.
And they beat Charleston Southern by 8. So if they were blowing out the major teams, the same size to them, I'd say, yeah, they're a good team. You know, they could beat some good teams in the tournament. But I don't see that. Now with Buffalo, they're just a good
Buffalo's really
team.
good.
Yeah, because they're dominating the mid-major schools, and they compete or beat the Power 5 schools. And honestly, I think that they're almost locked into a 5 seed or higher because I don't see them losing more than one game down the stretch.
I agree with everything you said. That's what I was gonna make the distinction with first. Is Buffalo has just been smacking every team by double digits except for they beat West Virginia. At the time, West Virginia was like 13th, and it was at West Virginia, and it was an overtime game. They beat them at West Virginia, and then they had the loss to Marquette. But every other win, they've just been smacking teams by double digits.
Oh, dude, they beat Syracuse, too.
Yeah, and they beat Syracuse, and the two wins they have actually that weren't double digits it was against Southern Illinois University, but they have really just been putting it on teams. I mean, they beat one team 110-71, and so Buffalo, they have really strong guard play. They shoot the ball well. They defend the perimeter with really good intensity. The Furman Paladins here, they have some strong guards. They have two impressive guards, and then they have a couple forwards who contribute nicely for them, but they're just not on the same level as Buffalo. Buffalo has a really good team. Another team to watch out for is Murray State. They have a really good team, too.
Yeah, they actually played a close game against Auburn. Close game at 7 points or something.
No, it's 5.
It was 5?
Yeah, it was 5 points.
Wow. Furman, they had the early season wins, but like a lot to be left desired in those other games like you guys had talked about. I do think that they're a good team, but I think Buffalo is a really, really good team. Like, this is basically the same exact team we saw last year beat Arizona, who a lot of people had picked to win the tournament,
Yep.
and they had the top player in the NBA draft, and Alonzo Trier. Like, that was a really, really good Arizona team that they beat, basically bringing everybody back, and they've already beat Syracuse and West Virginia. Like, they ran into a Marquette team that can basically get hot at any time. Buffalo can do the same. It was just Marquette's night, and I think if they played 10 times, Buffalo would get the better of them more often than not. But I think Buffalo is one of the better teams in the country, which I feel really, really weird saying that.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't pass the say it out loud test, but dude, they got some guards who can
On paper, there's definitely.
Yeah, when you look at them like the way they play, I mean, they just get under team shorts. You've seen what good guard play can do in college basketball. If you pass and defend well and shoot the ball well, you can have a really, really successful team in college. I think that's what you're seeing with Buffalo.
Right. I'm excited for Buffalo going down the stretch, though. Do you think that both these teams potentially punched a ticket? Like, as long as there's not, like, a huge collapse at the back end, like, they could be a team that, if they only drop, like, 1 or 2 conference games, they could be one of those rarities where they're, like, a legitimate mid-major that gets into the dance.
I want to say Buffalo on a trajectory to where they could lose in the conference tournament and still get Outlaw's bid. But with Furman, all the single-digit wins scare me. I think they could end up dropping a few. It has to win the conference tournament. So Buffalo, yes. Furman, no.
Yeah, I think both will probably make it in there. I mean, Furman, I don't know what conference they're in. I can't tell you the strength of their I'd be honest, I just can't. But I mean, I would think that if they ever reach a top 25 ranking like this, even though they are having close single-digit wins against non-Power 5 schools, they could probably still win their conference. They're going to be tough to get an at-large bid. Buffalo definitely could get an at-large bid though. They could lose in the semifinals of their conference tournament. I think still get an at-large bid.
So this time last year, I was talking about like with all the stipulations that are put on players trying to enter the draft. It seems like a lot of mid-major schools are better than what they have been in past years. Do you guys agree with that thought at all?
Not really. I think there are always quality mid-major teams out there. It's just it's a lot easier to find them now earlier just because of social media and stuff like that. I think if I keep talking about SIU, they had really good teams in 2006, 7, 8. I think if they were what they were then now, that they would be kind of a Butler going into the A-10. They would be leaving out of the Missouri Valley, kind of what Wichita did. So I think it's more relevant. It's more
timing is everything.
You're more aware of it now. Is all it is.
Yeah, I don't know if that's just said. Basically, I believe that with how big AAU basketball is now, we have kids playing basketball year round. Just the overall quality of player is better now than it was, even 5 years ago. To where many schools do have better players, but the big schools do have better players still yet.
Mid-major, man, that's my favorite term. What is it? What is a mid-major at this point?
Not a Power 5 school.
Not a Power 5? Well, what are our basketball Power 5s at this point? Because
it is tough because AAC is.
Yeah, I mean, is Xavier a Power 5? Is Marquette
the Big East wasn't what it was. I mean, people throw out the term high major. I think that's even stupider.
That sounds dumb.
Yeah, I think they relegate high major to Mountain West Conference, Atlantic 10, stuff like that. But yeah, Power 5. I mean, it's almost Power 5.5. Take the best half teams from the ACC or from the Big East and
the AAC.
Yeah. And that might make a Power 5, but this breaking up of conferences has made things very weird to distinguish what kind of pinhole or how you want to categorize teams now.
So there are 7 good conferences, and then Gonzaga, and then anybody else.
The West Coast Conference is another high major conference?
A-10. A-10 had a ton of teams in the... A-10, they get teams into the tournament.
Rhode Island spanked Connecticut.
I mean, do you consider Rhode Island to be a major, though? I kind of do.
Yeah, is Rhode Island a mid-major? Is Davidson a mid-major?
I consider Davidson one too, yeah.
I don't know at this point.
I feel like the line is so thin. You have the Big East, and then I think that the line's been drawn in a really, really weird spot in college basketball to where, whenever you say mid-major, is it really ringing anything unless it's a team you've never heard of?
Yeah, really, though, mid-major in college basketball, it's almost like a worthless word because 64 teams get into the tournament, and that's kind of what mid-major kind of used in sports has to kind of determine the quality competition. And college football is definitely matters. You get 4 teams in. College basketball is different. You get 68.
It's almost like a dinosaur kind of term, like a mid-major. That's what you would be using 10 years ago to describe teams that weren't in the Big Ten or the ACC. Mm-hmm. It's kind of an outdated term. I wouldn't even bother using it anymore.
Yeah, I think we're almost at that point because, I mean, if you just run in through all the conferences, there's 3 or 4 teams oh yeah, they're good. The Mountain West, San Diego State, they had that huge run where they were in the tournament every year, causing noise, and we were still calling them mid-majors with Kawhi Leonard on the court.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think we're outdated with that, unless it's basically just a team you've never heard of. Yeah. And we need to start coining that term. Team you've never heard of, yeah.
I throw out small school a lot, and even then that's not accurate, but whatever.
Yeah, little guy. All right, so we'll go ahead and we'll talk about the Saucy Six-Pack for Week 17. Guys, this is our last set of Saucy Six-Pack games. Actually, no, we'll be able to do playoffs because the first round there will be 6 games. So, there'll be more than 6, but
yeah,
this will be our last Saucy Six-Pack.
You'll be able to pick 6 from them.
So, Week 17, I'm basically doing all games with playoff implications. We'll start off with the kind of games that are playoff implications, barely. 49ers at Rams.
Rams.
Yeah, Rams.
Yeah, I agree. Rams are going to win that game, and they'll lock up the 2 seed. Bengals at Steelers.
Steelers.
Bengals sucks. I mean, I got to pick Steelers. I'm not very high on the Steelers right now either, so.
Yeah, I think if you picked any other team outside of like 5, I would probably pick them against the Steelers right now. But I'm going with the Steelers. Eagles at the Redskins.
Eagles.
Yep, Eagles.
All right, now we'll get to the games that have a little more playoff implications. Just, win and your job is sealed. We will go with the Bears at the Vikings.
I'm going with the Vikings.
I'm going with the Bears.
I'm going with the Bears as well. I think the pass rush is too much for that offensive line. Browns at the Ravens. Ravens win, and they're in.
I'm going with the Ravens.
So, I mean, the Ravens, if they lose but Pittsburgh loses, they still get in, right? Because they are
Correct.
9-7. I think that's what's going to happen. I think somehow Cleveland, I don't know what we've been doing lately, but we've been able to build something here, and I think that we're going to have some kind of an answer for Lamar Jackson, and I think we're going to have some kind of answer for that defense too with Baker Mayfield. So I'm going Cleveland in this one.
Yeah, I'm actually going to go with the Ravens. I think that just the weird way that they play is just too much. Honestly, I think what would be the key to success to beating this team, so back whenever Derwin James played college football, he went against Jalen Hurts, shut Jalen Hurts down against the run. You know what he did? He played middle linebacker. They put him in at middle linebacker for a lot of plays that Jalen Hurts could possibly be running the ball on, and basically just put him there as a spy. Jabril Peppers Jabril Peppers could do that. Like, I want to see them put Jabril Peppers at middle linebacker and say, all right, go ahead, beat us. Like, he's just going to spy Lamar Jackson all game. So what if you have a safety wide open, or your backup safety's in there? Like, Lamar Jackson's not going to beat you deep. But I think the Ravens are going to win. And then this game, the winner of this, have we already talked about Eagles and Redskins?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. The winner of this game, they actually promoted this game to Sunday Night Football. There was not a Sunday Night Football game on the slate. They promoted it to Sunday Night Football. Colts at the Titans. Winner is in the playoffs. Loser goes home. Who wins?
Whew, man, tough picking, but I'm going to go with the Colts.
It's not a tough pick for me at all. I'm going with the Colts.
Yeah, the way that the Colts won the game today just signifies a playoff team to me. I think the Colts are going to win this game, and I wouldn't be surprised if it was pretty handily. All right, guys, it is our time to put the producer in the spotlight. 1212 Pips Entertainment Review. Sit on down for a movie to view. Mr. Leighton C. goes out each week, watches 1, 2, maybe 3 or 4 movies, and he comes in and he reviews one for us. Leighton C., what do you got for us?
This week I'm going to review Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. It's the first animated movie.
Oh, wow.
That's kind of based partly in the Marvel Universe. It's kind of cool. So in the Marvel Universe,
Is it like a kids movie?
yeah, but this would appeal for people. If you like Marvel movies in general, Kingpin in Marvel Universe kind of this enemy that just has super strength and a shit ton of money. So he creates.
Hence the name.
Kingpin.
I never knew Kingpin had super strength.
Well, in
I
this
thought he was
movie,
just a big guy.
in this movie, spoiler alert, he kills Spider-Man just by punching him. So
Wow.
I'm assuming he's pretty strong.
Isn't there like a ton of Spider-Men, though?
I'm into it.
Okay.
So Kingpin, the guy who kills one Spider-Man,
Spoderman.
creates a machine to help him cross another dimensions, kind of just go dimensions because it's supervillain. That's what he does.
Okay.
And when he's turning on for the first time, Spider-Man, before he kills him, gets caught in like the wave or blast thing you would call it, and Spider-Man's DNA brings back from other dimensions other Spider-Man. So there's an anime one, the 1920 black and white noir Spider-Man. There's a Porky and Pig based Spider-Man from Looney Tunes.
That's hilarious.
And then there's just like a girl Spider-Man. They bring a Peter Parker Spider-Man who's kind of out of shape and lazy.
I was getting ready to say, is there a fat Spider-Man? Because that'd be hilarious.
There's one, and then of course Miles, the black Spider-Man, who is the main protagonist for the movie. So the movie story, is all good. I liked it throughout, but the real winner here is the visuals. It's partly made just on like straight computer kind of anime, not CGI, but it's animation. And then partly it's hands on from a comic book, which is really cool, something I've never seen before in an anime movie. In my personal opinion, it's the best superhero movie of the year.
Oh, wow.
And the best Spider-Man movie since Spider-Man 2, which was 14 years ago. This movie has 2.4 dips. It's really good. If you like superhero movies at all, you're going to like this movie. For just shaking his head no disbelief, having never seen the movie.
I tell you what, ever since that one series, that cartoon series, Justice League, when they went to the other dimension, and then with that Injustice Gods Among Us video game, I feel like having superheroes go to other dimensions is such a cop-out because it's like, well, we feel like we've just depleted all of our storylines, so let's just go make a bad Superman or a bad Spider-Man.
Yeah, but this movie worked though.
I mean, they all work. Doesn't mean they work
make
well.
bad ideas good.
But that's not realistic.
Off idea and make it good.
That's a good point.
I mean, yes, no shit, Drake. It's not realistic.
They do.
Let's consider other things in Marvel. It's not realistic.
I just don't like the non-realistic portion of it. Like, you switch dimensions. That's
there was a critic for one of the Transformer movies. It was one where that dude had to find his grandpa's glasses because there was a part of that damn box or whatever that got encrusted on his glasses and they needed it. And this critic says, I don't believe it took him that long to find his glasses. I'm like, dude, that's what you don't find fucking believable? Is there some?
That's what you want to
there's a yellow and black Camaro transforming into a 30-foot robot, and you don't believe it took him 2.5 hours to find his fucking glasses? Like, come on.
Yeah.
Like, lose your keys every now and then. It can take a couple hours to find them. Like, losing your glasses.
That's the problem I have with the dimensions. I just don't like that they're able to cross dimensions because that's just impossible.
But Kingpin made the machine that can make it happen. Without that, there's no movie. So he's
Kingpin. Is that like Bill Gates?
That's a good
Kingpin's
question.
more like Elon Musk.
Oh, no.
Way more ambitious.
Smoking weed on Joe Rogan's podcast.
Yes.
Kingpin might do that.
He probably
What could
would.
he do?
He's a bad guy. He probably breaks the law.
A lot. Kill Spider-Man.
Tries to kill Spider-Man. So, Spider-Man Into the Universe, 2.4 dips. Would this appeal?
Into the Spider-Verse.
Oh,
Wow.
okay. Into the Spider-Verse.
2.4 dips.
So, you think everybody liked this movie?
If you like... Well, if you're a kid who's like, I don't know, 13 younger, like the movie because it's a cartoon. But if you like Marvel movies, universe, all that stuff, you like the movie.
Okay. All right.
First time movie I've seen all year.
Wow. Are you serious?
Yes.
So we're like 360 days into this year, and this is the first animated one you've watched?
Yeah, I haven't watched this.
My dad's big into animated movies. I don't understand why.
Interesting. Okay.
Latency, not a fan of anime. All right. So, bold predictions. Got any for us?
Yeah, I'm going to do it for the third week in a row. Best Humper side of the Phillies.
Okay. Yeah, never come off a take, right?
No help to take.
I've already said it on the show. Cleveland win next week. They beat Baltimore.
Keep Baltimore out of the playoffs. That'd be interesting. My bold prediction, I think that the Eagles win behind of Nick Foles' arm, and I think Nick Foles is going to throw for another 350-yard performance. So he's going to continue to ride the hot hand.
Did you see what he did in the Super Bowl last year?
Killed it.
Yeah, I don't think that the week 17 of the regular season is going to be bigger than the Super Bowl.
350 yards, though. Another 350-yard performance.
Well, okay.
For a guy who was 6,000 on FanDuel, perk your ears up, boys.
Well, that's a fault for FanDuel. They need to get their shit together.
Yes, they do. They need to figure it out to where I win money every week. So, guys, anything else before we wrap this show up?
Yeah, I got a weird comparison to make. You look at Dak Prescott in the games he goes off. The defense is there. The running game's there. Everything flows right for him. He's got a nice number one receiver now in Amari Cooper. I think there's a lot of parallels there with Baker Mayfield and Dak Prescott. Nick Chubb goes off. They have a defense that's top in the league in takeaways, giving him extra possessions. He's got Jarvis Landry, who catches 90-plus balls a year. If he has that formula work right for him, he plays great. But if he doesn't have that formula working for him, I question it. And that's why you're always hearing me bitch about us taking Baker Mayfield and not Sam Darnold.
Okay, I love Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold looks so good sometimes.
Yeah, Sam Darnold looked good today.
Yeah, well, he looked good on this team, too.
Guys, if you enjoyed any of Fletcher's talking about NBA or any basketball in general, be sure to listen to his show every Wednesday, Hump Day Hoops Hysteria. It's him, Latency, mainly Fletcher just letting you dive into the beautiful basketball mind that he has. And on that note, Dippers, for Drake, for Latency, and our guest host Fletcher, as always, stay saucy.